The second extraordinary event taking place now simultaneously with the change from one age into another age is the coming forward into the everyday world of these masters of wisdom. For countless thousands of years, the masters have lived in the remote mountain and desert areas of the world, unknown by the vast majority of people. They have known for over 500 years that sooner or later they would be required to come back into the everyday world where once they lived as ordinary people. And until recently, relatively recently, it was thought it would probably be 1200, 1300 years yet before the masters could come into the world, before we were ready for the entry of the masters. But with the creation of the atomic bomb, the head and leader of that group, whose personal name is Maitréyi, the world teacher, made an announcement in June 1945, exactly at the end of the war, that if humanity, of its own free will, a free will which is never abused by hierarchy, it is sacrosanct and never infringed by the masters. If humanity, of its own free will, would take just the first steps to create right human relationships, to put its house in order, then he, Maitréyi, and a group of his disciples, the masters of wisdom, would come into the world and begin the process of teaching and working with humanity on a completely different and totally known basis. It was hoped that Maitréyi could come in about 5 years, around 1950. But the nations did nothing. They simply quickly went back to the old ways, the old greedy, selfish, competitive ways of the past, in which they are totally locked today. So his coming was put back and put back and put back. And in 1975, 5 masters took up position in 5 major spiritual centers of the world. One came into west to east, but not in any order of importance. One into New York, one into London, one into Geneva, one into Darjeeling, and one into Tokio. Later, 2 more, one into Moscow and one into Rome. And they were added to, until today, there are 14 masters in the world. Eventually, there will be about 40 masters in the world. And in July, Maitréyi himself announced, "I am coming whether they are ready or not." On the 8th of July, 1977, Maitréyi descended from his mountain in the Himalaya. It's about 17,000 feet up. He descended into the plains in Pakistan, stayed some days in Pakistan to climatize a body which he had been creating for this purpose, a body self-created which allows him to live at our level and at the same time bring in his consciousness as the embodiment of the Christ principle, the love energy of God, as the world teacher, to do his work as the world teacher for all humanity. After some days in Pakistan, he came by aeroplane into London, England, and made his, what he calls his point of focus in the modern world, the Asian community of London, England. Since July 19th, 1977, Maitréyi has lived in London, as yet undeclared as who, in fact, he really is. The people around him know he is someone very, very special indeed, but most of them do not know exactly who and what he is and does. Christians await the return of the Christ. And by the Christ they mean Jesus. Actually, Jesus is not and was not the Christ. He was the body for the Christ. He was the physical plane expression of the Christ by being overshadowed by Maitréyi for the last 3 years of his life. For the last 3 years, from the baptism to the crucifixion, Jesus acted as the vehicle for the Christ, the embodiment of the Christ principle, which is Maitréyi, who overshadowed him and manifested through him exactly in the same way as 600 years earlier, the Buddha manifested through his disciple, the Prince Gautama. Gautama was not the Buddha, but he was the vehicle for the Buddha being overshadowed by Gautama. So Jesus, for these 3 years, exemplified, spoke to the people, and they heard and understood or misunderstood the teachings of Maitréyi through Jesus. Christians await the return of Jesus. When? They have no idea. The one who was Jesus is now the master who is in Rome. Muslims are awaiting a teacher they call the Imam Mahdi, the great Imam. Jews await the Messiah. Jesus came to them as the Messiah and was not recognized. Hindus await the return of Krishna or Kalki avatar. And Buddhists await the coming of Maitréyi Buddha. But they have no idea when he would come. There are some who believe it will be in something like 350 million years. But the Buddha, through the Prince Gautama, in one of the sutras says that at this time, at the end of Kali Yuga, would come another great teacher, a Buddha like himself, by name Maitréyi, who, by dint of his colossal spiritual stature, would galvanize and inspire humanity to build a brilliant golden civilization based, as he put it, on righteousness and truth. And I suggest to you that that is what is happening today.